guys, welcome to my channel. Hope everyone's doing well. I thought I'd just pop on today and show you guys what I've been doing over the last couple of days. I've been experimenting and mucking around with isopropyl alcohol. I've just noticed that it does some really cool things to the media that we all use, like Neocolor 2s and Watercolor and alcohol markers. So I thought the next step is to actually try this in my colouring books. I've only experimented on this plain paper, so I'm not sure how it's going to go in the different colouring books. But I've hunted out 3 different colouring books I can try some of the different techniques on. I've just made sure that they're colouring books that I know that the paper deals with water well. Also that they're one-sided, because I know that with the isopropyl alcohol it's going to make everything bleed through. So let's jump to it and we'll see how we go with our first book. So I was thinking we'll start with watercolour paint. This is a little tester that I did yesterday when I was mucking around. And I really liked the way it worked out. So I want to try and get a similar effect to this, but in the book. I decided to use The Search for the Lightbulb Burglar by David Haben. And the reason is I know this paper can take water really, really well. It's really nice and thick and actually has a bit of texture to it. So hopefully that will work really well. I've decided just to use this, just to paint this light bulb. I just wanted to do something really large and quite simple for the technique that I'm doing now, just to see how we go. So I'm going to use my isopropyl alcohol, and I've got the Diggers brand, which is really good because it does come in this spray bottle, and I really like this spray bottle because it's not a fine mist. I tried to put my isopropyl alcohol in this Ranger mini mister. I don't know if you can see this, but it's from Ranger ink, and it's a mini mister, but that comes out so fine, it wasn't working really well. So this comes out in really uneven, not so great drops, but that's what we need to make the nice effects on the paint. So this is really good, and I'm pretty sure it's an Aussie product, but I'm not sure if you can get it overseas. I also am going to use just a little pipette, I don't know if you can see that, just for picking up the alcohol and then just dropping it in, just to give some little effects. Also, I'll need my paintbrushes, and I'm going to use my Kuretake watercolor for this. And also some of my metallic watercolor. I've decided to use these 2 colours from my Gamze Tambai, so just number 37 and number 66. I am going to give everything just a quick water wash. I have found out that you need to work really quickly because you don't want it to dry too much. Otherwise it won't work. So, and also I have worked out that you need a little bit more pigment than you usually would, otherwise it won't show up. So I'm not going to be super precious. I'm just going to chuck it on and then see how we go. I'm not going right to the edge, because what does happen is I have realised that it blooms out. So because the water blooms out with the alcohol, it does go everywhere. So I'm not going right in. Let's put a little bit more red here. I'm not going right to the edges because it will bloom out. I think. I think it will bloom out. So see how we go. So I just need to leave that to dry a little bit, not too much, but if you do it when it's really wet, it just blooms way too much. You don't want it to really bloom, then you can't notice the effect. So I've just got my pipette, which is filled, and then also my spray. Just waiting for this to spread out a little bit more, and then we'll see how we go. So with the spray, if you just spray, you'll be able to see some blooms happening in a minute. Just like that. So I just want some little blooms. And then with the pipette, you can do two different ways. You can do it from far away. You can see it bloom. Or what I have found, you'll see there is spots obviously where the water is welling. And I've found that that's the best places to get the effect. You just place it down. They will give you, where the water's welling is where you'll get the biggest effects. So I'm just hoping here it doesn't go out the lines. It's running a little bit because my page is wrinkling up. But I don't want to mop any of the, like I would usually get my paper towel and mop some of this excess up, but I don't want to do that because that's where I can get the biggest effects I've figured out. Okay, so what I might do, I don't want to do too much, otherwise it will look too overdone, but the only thing with the Gansai Tambi paint is when you do have big areas of a lot of pigment, I've noticed it gets shiny. So I'm trying to get rid of the big areas of pigment. Like down here, this is all going to be super shiny. So I think I might mop some of this up. Just try and get a little bit, I think, yeah, there we go. Just a little bit of it off. This will just be more or less a base coat, so I will be going into it with pencils and other media. So I think that looks pretty good. I don't want to do too much. If you do too much, it just merges into one big blob of nothing. So I think that looks pretty good. So now I'm just going to go in. It's dried a little bit, but it's not completely dry. Now I'm going to go in with my Coliro Gold Watercolor. Okay. So I'm just going to go, maybe just make some squiggly lines in there. Nothing, I'm not really following any pattern. Just grab my pipette again. Oh, I've let it dry too quickly. Let's try and put some more water on it and see how we can. Oh, this is maybe a bad idea. See how we go. It's kind of okay. It's probably not what I wanted to happen. But when I did my tester, I did use different watercolor paint. Just a cheaper one, which obviously seemed to work a little bit better. I thought this would work better. But obviously it's not. Just needs to be watered down a bit more. Hopefully we can get something to happen. So obviously that's not what I really wanted to happen. So next time I'll remember to use my really cheap metallic, because that seemed to work better because it was more watery. But I still think it looks pretty cool. And when it's dried, I'll probably go in a little bit with some metallic and try and fix fix up where it's gone wrong. I think if I try, I'm just going to try and water it out just so it's not so obvious, and then we'll see how we go from there. I don't want to give up yet. I'll let this dry a little bit, and then I think I might go in again with the two colours that I used before, just to go over the top, not cover the gold completely, but just cover most of the gold up. Okay, so I tried to fix it by putting another layer of the watercolor on there, but I think it's not working because what's happened is it's been so saturated with the isopropyl alcohol on the back that it's not making a difference. So when I pipette anything onto it, it's just not doing anything at all. So I'm not totally in love with this, but I don't think it's a complete disaster either. I think I'll iron this straight and I'll go in with some Prismacolors, and I actually think that at the end it will probably look really good. So I'm not upset with it, but I'm not completely happy with it. Next time I have to remember not to use Colero watercolors, or maybe just water them down a lot more. So that's the isopropyl alcohol with the watercolor, and I think leaves a really cool effect. So I'll bring it up just so you can see it a little better. So next I'm going to do a page from Sirens du Monde by Diane Defer. I thought I better do a bit of mermaids for Mermaid, because literally I've only done one mermaid picture this month and I have to try and clock up my mermaid pictures. So this is the experiment I did with the alcohol markers. So if you notice, it's a lot more controlled. Like when you drop the isopropyl alcohol ink onto the marker, it's a lot more controlled. So I thought I'd use this just to colour in the little spaces, maybe the mermaid tails and the nulls as well. I'm going to be using Ohuhu alcohol markers. I actually tried it on I do have like some really cheap alcohol markers. They're no-name alcohol markers, but it didn't seem to work as well. So I stick with the Ohuhu. I only have the pastel set though, so they are going to be quite light colours. I'll start off by doing one of the mermaid's tails and see how we go. So with this time, I'm not actually going to spray the isopropyl alcohol. I'm just going to use the pipette, and then also I've got these three, just like three lids from something. I don't even know what this is. And I'm going to get a little bowl and put the isopropyl alcohol marker in here, and then I'll just dip these into it and then place them on here. It seems to give more of a, you can see here it's like a circle effect. Okay, now the tail's coloured in. I'll just get the pipette and see how we go. It does take a while for the alcohol marker to show up, not like the watercolour paint that happens straight away. I'm trying to control it more because it's such a small area. Then I dip this little round one here, just into here. See how it looks. So it's very discreet, but it does give a bit of a pattern. So I think that would look really good on like fabrics and clothes and something like that. I know it's bled out. That's okay, I could just cover that up when I'm doing the background. Okay, so I did do a couple more, and I did notice a couple of things. I did notice when I let the alcohol ink dry a lot longer that the circles are more pronounced. So I think we do your alcohol marker, let it dry quite a bit, and then go back and do that. Because otherwise, if it's still wet, I've realised that's when it bleeds all over the place. So just make sure that it's completely dry before you go in with your isopropyl alcohol. The next one we're going to use is Neocolor 2s, and these are the experiments that I did on the Neocolor 2. So that's just the spray bottle, and then that's the pipette. So it did actually give more of a mottled effect there with the circle. So we'll see how that, if it blooms the same. I have noticed as I was doing my experiments, it really is different every single time you do it, depending on how much pigment you put in, how much water you put in, how long each one dries before you use the isopropyl alcohol. So it's, I don't think you're ever going to be able to plan to get the effect that you actually want, but you can get near enough. So the book I've decided to use for this one is the Bizarre Bottle Encyclopedia by Dom Domming. And I've never actually coloured in this, but the paper does seem to be super thick, so hopefully it does take the water really well. And I've chosen myself another mermaid one to clock up my mermaids for mermaid. I'm going to use just 3 Neocolors. I've got the turquoise green, the malachite green, and also jade green. So we'll see how they go. So I've just given them all a sharpen before I start. I actually use my Disturbance sharpener. It's just got 2 different sizes in there. This big size works really well. Obviously, I only use them for my Neocolor too, so my pencils don't get ruined by the wax. So I'm going to start from the lightest colour and then go into the darkest going out this way. So light going into dark. Okay, so as you can see, that is really faint and very subtle and didn't really work very well. And that might just be because of the paper, or, with my experiment, I used the same color. I put a bit more pigment on when I did it this way. I'm not sure, but it hasn't worked that well. There's a subtleness to it, which is quite nice. And I might actually try and go over it a little bit later once it's dried with a little bit more pigment and another layer and see if I can do anything, but I'm not sure if I will be able to because I've put quite a lot of alcohol on there. There's my 3 experiments. I think they went all right. I did learn what not to do, but also learned a few things to do. So I hope you guys got something out of it, and let me know in the comments what you think about it, or if you've tried it before, what your results have been, and if you guys have any tips for me to improve the way I'm doing it. Let me know, because I'm definitely going to keep experimenting with this because it's a lot of fun. It can be a little bit messy and it's hard to keep in the lines when the isopropyl alcohol makes your ink run. But I did find that the watercolor didn't run as much as the marker base, the alcohol marker. So that's something to learn too. So hopefully I can finish these pictures off and they'll be in my end of month, especially my mermaid pictures. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Bye.